This is not just a tutorial. This is a technique I wanted to teach you today, how to use wafer paper and a little bit of imagination to create these textural and relatively large flowers for your arrangements. Let's get started. Let's start with making our base for our flower. And for that, I'm going to use wafer paper. This is 0.30 millimeters and a piece of 20 gauge wire. Because we are building a structure, there is no template, but I will show you how I'm making my base for the flower. So I will fold my wafer paper in half and take half a shape. Then I will create a cone structure. So I'm basically holding wafer paper on itself until I like the shape, something maybe like this, because this is going to be the base structure that we are going to shape a little bit later. So all I need to do now, where I know where the end is to add my wafer paper glue. All I need to do is to add my wafer paper glue here on the fold and bring it over very firmly, securing my shape in place. So now we have our base structure, and I will think where I want it to end, maybe this size. So I will take a pair of sharp scissors and just cut little indentations to the line where I want my cone shape to end. Now is the fun part. I'm going to take my wafer paper glue and add it inside the cone here at the end, and I will take my 20 gauge wire and push it through, securing here on the top of my structure. Now that I have my wire attached at one end, I need to fold the other parts over, bringing them to the center. I will try to keep my wire here in the middle, bringing all these parts on both sides. And all I need to do is to add my wafer paper glue to these sides and fold them over on itself to secure my shape. Like this. Bring everything together and making sure that my wire sits somewhere in the middle. I know it looks complicated, but that's the hardest part. All we need to do is to create the shape and set it aside to dry for about half an hour. Now let's color our wafer paper. I'm going to use a few shades that I have left over from my lavender tutorial. This is airbrushed wafer paper, but I'm going to color a few more shades in a lighter color. And for that, I'm going to mix my Easy Tonic, the recipe is in the description, with a gel color. And I will use my mini spray bottle. And I will spray my wafer paper with this mixture very lightly. So now that our wafer paper is dry, I'm going to cut my flowers. I like using this craft punch. This is Hydrangea by EK Tools. I will link it in the description. And I will need to use only the smaller flowers because for lilac, I think it's going to work a little bit better. So I'll start by cutting my wafer paper flowers and separate them by sizes. So I will use medium size and small flowers for my lilac. So I need to cut a lot of these flowers in different sizes, and then we are going to attach them onto our shape. Now that I have an assortment of my flowers, my shape is dry, let's put everything together. For that, I'm going to use my wafer paper glue, and I will put it on the side so I can dip my flowers into. And you can see I have an arrangement of different colors in different shades and sizes. So I use darker purple, wafer paper, a little bit lighter, white and green colored wafer paper to make my petals. And to assemble my flower, we'll start with a petal size flower and just a touch of my wafer paper glue, and I will start building it onto my flower, overlapping my petals, my little flowers, and I kind of like little groupings, mixing in different shades and different shapes of my wafer paper. But you can see if you have everything ready, your flowers, your wafer paper glue, it comes together rather quickly. And I wanted to use lighter colors in the middle and then use darker colors on top because I wanted to make it look like a natural progression for the colors on my lilac, but also mixing a little bit of white and lighter colors to make it look cohesive and more realistic. And then I will take more of my smaller flowers, bend them a little bit to give them more dimension and place it on top. Darker and smaller, and then lighter and larger closer to the middle and down the end. So I will keep building my flower, adding more layers, and I will show you the final result. Look how fluffy and dimensional it looks. And you can use this technique for making lilacs, maybe using white flowers and making stock. Or as I used it before, and I made this huge hydrangea hat. So you can see this is a technique more than a tutorial that you can use in the way you need to make the flowers you need for your arrangements. Don't forget to download my free guide to get my globe recipe and a tonic recipe that you will need to make these flowers.